Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach, Shir Torah. Wonderful to be here at Netive Ezra, right before Rosh HaShanah, last minute TeShuva. I actually was here one time. I did a short Devar Torah, maybe about a year or two ago. I did, one of my dear friends, Rabbi Raphael, did a halakha for his son. He invited me to speak here for a few minutes, so I think I met a couple of you in the past. But as far as anybody here, other than the obvious ones, does anybody here know my shiurim? Have you ever watched any of my shiurim? Nothing? Nothing? Okay, what's up?
Tell the story.
Say a story? We'll tell the story in between. Does anybody have any specific questions, issues that have bothered them their whole life? Like, what was here before, the world? Or there's dinosaurs in the Torah? Or how can we prove the Torah is real? Or why is it tzaddik veralo, rasha v'tov? Really difficult questions. Make it difficult for me. Yeah? Yeah?
I find it very difficult to forgive myself.
Forgive yourself. Okay. Depends how bad it was. Depends. Depends how bad it was. Okay, we'll answer that too. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, that's one. No? Anybody else want to volunteer? Yeah. Throw nice ones. It has nothing to do with me anyway. It's all Hashem, so don't...
It bothers me a little bit, like we speak a lot about Ezra-Aventura.
Okay.
But still we're very comfortable living many rabbanim.
We live here.
Here in Miami.
So we're like, contradicting ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, like I know in person, I know the guy who authored a book about the mitzvah of living in Israel.
Okay.
He goes to my shul and then he lives here in Somerset.
Okay. Rambam also lived outside of Eretz Yisrael. Talmud Bavli was also written outside of Eretz Yisrael. It's Bavli. Bavli is Bavel. It was where Saddam Hussein.
Yes.
Okay, that's two. No, next. Again, I'm going to answer all of them. B'ezrat Hashem in the shiur. Go, more. Okay, you can interrupt in the middle. Make it easy for you. And if you don't come up with questions, I'll come up with questions. And I'll give you the answers also. Hopefully. Or maybe Betzalel is going to give the answers. B'ezrat Hashem, the Parashat Shavua that we have, Parashat Nitzavim, gives us the source of TeShuva. Source of TeShuva, the whole concept, the idea, the mitzvah deoraita to do TeShuva is in this week's parasha when Moshe Rabbeinu tells Am Yisrael, V'shavta ad Adonai Elohecha v'shamata bekolo, and you return to Hashem Yitbarach, your God, and you heard His voice, and you did everything that He said. The Ramban says this is the source of the mitzvah of TeShuva. Now, interestingly enough, every year we read this right before Yom Din, right before Rosh HaShanah. Meaning that if you haven't done TeShuva by now, you're kind of running out of time. Yom Din is in a few days. Now the question is, who is this mitzvah for? We have to ask ourselves every day, especially now because Yom Din is in a few days. Yom Din means Judgment Day. Judgment Day means that for the entire world, the Gemara in Maseret Rosh HaShanah, page 16b, says, everyone is like Bnei Meron. What's Bnei Meron? They give an analogy. They said, when the Chachamim in the old days would do Maaser, would give the mitzvah of Maaser, and it was on cattle, they would take each one of their cattle, each one of their sheep, and they would have them enter a small entrance. That way, no two could fit. It could only fit one at a time. So it would be one straight, long, straight line. Imagine 500, 5,000, 50,000 sheep, one straight line from here to Jamaica. Long line, one at a time. Why? Because they had to count the maaser. How do you count maaser? You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And on 10th one, you paint them. You paint the 10th one. Said, that's Hekdesh. That's the Bet HaMikdash. Doesn't belong to me anymore. Even if I like him, even if it's a cute sheep, and I like him, and I give him a name, it doesn't belong to me anymore. Why? Because when it comes to mitzvat maaser, one of the most significant things that a person needs to do in order to succeed in maaser is try to remove all of the barriers, all the yetzer that he has when it comes to it. So that's why, for example, today, anybody that usually fulfills the mitzvah of maaser, the ones that succeed usually do it every week or every 2 weeks, meaning every time they get money. The ones that try to do it once a year usually fail. And the reason why is because Lapetach chatat rovetz. Hashem said to Cain in Parashat Bereshit, if you leave an opening, if you leave a little opening for the yetzer, he's gonna break down the door. All he needs is a little bit opening. So what happens is, when we leave a little opening for the yetzer, when it comes to maaser, we say, no, I'll give it at the end of the year. It's easier for me. That's when I get my bonus. That's when my stock portfolio really does this, really does that. I'll give the big money at the end of the year. What am I going to give the rabbi $50? It's lo kavod to give to the rabbi $50. Lo kavod. I'm going to give him a nice check, $50,000. Nice, at the end of the year though. Not now, $50 now, lo kavod. Imagine the keilah knows I gave the rabbi $50, they may put me on cheren. But if I give a check, nice check. What happens at the end of the year? All of a sudden, at the end of the year, oh yeah, rabbi, can I give you an IOU? Why IOU? All of a sudden something happened. Why? Because the yetzer now all of a sudden gave us a lot of other expenses, a lot of other ideas, a lot of this, a lot of that. By the time came at the end of the year, it's now a big check. It's now a big check. It's much harder to write a big check than a small check. So the Chachamim say when you give maaser with the sheep, with the cows, with anything else, you have to remove the free choice. You have to remove your own ideas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On the 10th one, doesn't matter if you like the sheep, if he's big, if he's fat, if he's cute. Doesn't make a difference. He's number 10, doesn't belong to you. Now, what do we learn from this? Chamim say in the Gemara Maseret Rosh HaShanah is that Am Yisrael, the world at large, is like Bnei Meron. What's Bnei Meron? We also go in front of the Bet Din of Shamayim, and Hashem counts us one after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one after another. Each person gets judged individually. So the Chachamim say, so why is it a line? Why Hashem can't judge everyone? He says, no, here's the problem. The problem is that the Torah tells us that tzaddikim get judged right away to Chaim. Tzaddikim, someone's tzaddik, there's nothing to worry about. Chaim, he gets life. Reshaim, death. So what's the whole judgment for? This is how he judges. How does he judge? We always heard our whole life, Kol Yisrael Aravim ze lazeh. All of Am Yisrael are connected to each other. So the Chachamim explained to us that when a judgment works in Hashem Yitbarach in Rosh HaShanah, is that he judges us on a line because he shows us why we're connected. The tzaddikim are in the front of the line. The reshaim are in the back of the line. Why is that the case? Because the tzaddikim, the closer you are to the front, the more your judgment is based only on you. Meaning, if you're in front of the line, you're a little Moshe Rabbeinu, all you have to work with is your own judgment. All you have to work with is your own judgment. So even if you're harsh on yourself, it's good. Why is it good? Because if you're harsh on yourself, that means you're doing tshuva on a daily basis. Come. There's seats right here. Come, sit. Same price. So, if you're harsh on yourself the whole year, not harsh on yourself, you're making yourself depressed, chas v'shalom. Harsh on yourself, meaning you're giving yourself, you're giving yourself musar. You know what? I got to be better. You know what? I got to do better. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to wear more modest clothes. I got to cover my hair. I got to give tzedakah. I got to learn Torah. I got to stop worrying so much about Olam Haba. This world constantly. I got to worry. I have already a house here. I'm not sure if I have a house over there. People spend millions of dollars and their whole life savings to build a world here, it's going to last maximum their whole life. Maximum their whole life. Why? After that, they can't take it. But over there, not so much. Over there, we need a mortgage. Over there, we're not even sure they're going to lend us any money. Not everybody's prepared for Olam Haba. So the tzaddikim are in the front of the line. Because all they have to worry about is their own cheshbon. But once the guy is a second in line, he's after the first one, now he has to worry about his cheshbon and the guy in front of him. The guy, because his actions are connected. If his guy in front of him is tzaddik, it's not so bad. If he's rasha, he has a problem. The reshaim are in the back of the line. Why are the reshaim in the back of the line? Because they get punished not only for what they did themselves, but also for what they caused other people to do. Because a rasha, the more of a rasha he is, the more he influences the public. And the Rambam, alav shalom, in Ilchot Tshuva, writes there's 24 types of sins, that Hashem makes it difficult for these people to do tshuva. Makes it difficult for these people to do tshuva, almost impossible. One of the top 4 is a machtia rabim, someone that causes other people to sin. Someone that says, guys, let's go to the beach on Shabbat. Guys, why don't we go and have some nice McDonald's right now, non-kosher McDonald's. Come, over here, Yev. Why don't we have a machtia rabim, an immodest woman, Shem Rachem, an immodest woman, almost half of the world doesn't even know what modesty is, and the other half doesn't care. Immodest woman walks around, somebody tells her you have to stop putting clothes on. She says, no, clothes are for other people. So she's a machtia rabim. Why? Every time a guy looks at her, he thinks about her when he's with his wife, Shem Rachem. She's a machtia rabim. People like that have a very serious problem on Yom Din. Why? Because they don't just have to worry about their own problems. Now they have to worry about other people's problems, the other people that they caused to sin. So that's why the Gemara says that there is tzaddikim and reshaim. But what about benonim? What about the ones in the middle? It says the benonim have to wait for Yom Kippur. Why do they have to wait for Yom Kippur? Because that's the appeal. That's the time where if it didn't really work out for us so much on Rosh HaShanah, then we have to change everything by adding one mitzvah. Now the Rambam teaches us that every Jew has to look at himself as if he's a benoni, as if he's in the middle. Why? Because one mitzvah turns him into a tzaddik. One avera turns him into a Haman, into a Rasha. One mitzvah. So what mitzvah is he going to do? On Yom Kippur we have a mitzvah. What mitzvah is it? Tshuva. The rest of the year it's good to do tshuva. But on Yom Kippur, it's actually a mitzvah deoraita to do tshuva. So that's what's going to take us, Be'ezrat Hashem, to become tzaddikim. But be'emet, how are we going to know? Maybe we made a few averot in between. What's going to happen? So in reality, Chachamim teach us, be'emet, between all of us, we're all depending on a miracle. Be'emet, when you see your friend, first time after a year, you don't say Shechianu. What do you say? Machia metim. Now why you say Machia metim? Why you say, I didn't see you in a year, I missed you so much, I love you, how are you, how's everything, how's the kids, how's the wife, how's everything? But before all that, I say Machia metim. I say, the resurrecting, Hashem revives the dead. Why? You didn't, why? I know you went to Tahiti for a year. I know you didn't die. I know you didn't come back from dead. Why am I making a blessing of Machia metim? Because the Chachamim teach us, if a person survived Rosh HaShanah, Yom Din, and he didn't die, Ishtabach Shemolah, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. Why? Because Be'emet, he's a Benoni. He's in the middle. It means he's depending on a miracle. So what does it mean, Rabotai Yekarim? It means that the mitzvah of tshuva that we have in Parashat Nitzavim is for all of us. It's for all of us. It's not just for the Reshaim. It's not only for the Mechalel Shabbat. It's not only for the guy that's going with the Eshet Ish. It's not only for the obvious. It's for everyone. Tshuva is for everyone. The problem today is that in the secular world, you have, most people know nothing. Like I didn't know most of my life, I knew nothing. I still don't know that much, but I knew mamash nothing. And you never think that you have to do tshuva. Why? You figure tshuva is for religious people. It's for religious people. You figure Shabbat, it's a nice thing to do, but it's for you, it's not for me. It's for other people. You guys like to have chulent and everything. I like to go to the casino. That's what the Chiluni says. That's what the secular person says. You want to go to B'Knesset? Ashrecha, enjoy B'Knesset. I like to go to the beach on Shabbat. What's the problem? I'm not telling you what to do. Don't tell me what to do. You like to go with a Jewish woman? I like to go with a Goya. What's the problem? What? Who you tell me what to do? You don't even know me. The Chiloni thinks, the secular person thinks, you do you, I do me. Live and let live. He thinks he has an option. He thinks he has a bargaining to. He could just do whatever he wants. So that's why the Chiloni, most of the time, it's simply because we are in a generation of ignorant people. We are in a generation of people who simply do not know the truth. And I don't mean know the truth like they've heard of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Even the Goyim heard of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Even if you go to the zoo, I'm sure you're going to find one monkey that's Kitzei Avraham. It's not a big deal to know who Avraham Avinu is. Everybody knows who Avraham Avinu is. Just because you know Avraham Avinu doesn't mean you go to Gan Eden. By knowing the truth, I mean knowing Omek Hadin, knowing what is the depth of judgment, knowing in reality what's the price, what's the cost of going against the system. Do I really have free choice, or is it really choice, not free? It's expensive choice. In the religious world, we simply think tshuva is for the secular people. Why? We keep Shabbat, we keep kashrut, the wife goes to the mikveh, Baruch HaShem. Tshuva? Yeah, this mitzvah, Hashem made he did nice something, he did a chesed for the chilonim. He did a chesed for the secular people. He wrote them a parasha. The secular, religious people think, yeah, Hashem, even, you see how nice Hashem is? You see how much He loves Am Yisrael? Even when they're chilonim, even when they're secular, He gives them a parasha. You see how nice He is? We think that tshuva is for the secular people in the religious world. So now, most of my life, this was the mentality that I had, just like most people in the world, religious and non-religious. Everybody has the same mindset. And the reason why is because we think we have free choice. We don't have free choice. We have choice. What's choice? Now, if it was free choice means that if you go to work, you make money. You don't go to work, you don't make any money. That's free choice, meaning you can do whatever you want. You do mitzvot, you get rewarded. You don't do mitzvot, don't do mitzvot, your loss. That's free choice. Free choice, you can do whatever you want. We don't have that in the Torah. If you look at the Torah very carefully, you look at this parasha, the one before it, the one before it, the one before it, and pretty much every parasha in the Torah, you see Hashem doesn't say you have such a thing. It's the opposite, actually. He says you have choice. There's a price for everything. Brachot veklalot. He doesn't say you have brachot or klalot. You have blessings or curses. He doesn't say that. It's brachot veklalot, meaning it comes together, package deal. It's package deal. Whether you like it or not, it's package deal. If you do good, you get brachot. You get blessings. You don't, you get klalot. That's it. Simple. What's the klalot? Ooh, wow, Shem Yerachem. You guys heard what happened in Parashat Kitavo? Anyone that understands what it says in Parashat Kitavo, if he's not shaking by the end, he should read it again. Because he doesn't understand. Because Hashem says such horrible things of what happens to Am Yisrael when they don't keep mitzvot, that we see there's no such thing as free choice. It's an illusion, it's a delusion, it's a fantasy. And anyone that wants to look and verify could just look at the history of Am Yisrael throughout the last 3,300 years. And you see what happens to us every time we decide to be chilonim. Every time we decide to assimilate. Every time we decide to have a non-Jewish girlfriend. Every time we decided to go out and do things that are not exactly so kosher. You look at the Bet HaMikdash, the first one, blood was filling the streets, a river of blood. Second Bet HaMikdash, river of blood. Spanish Inquisitions, the pogroms, the Holocaust. Some of the things people don't like to talk about is that there's actually also proof in the Torah that Parashat Kitavo was fulfilled in many places. And one of the Rabbanim that survived the Holocaust said that the most difficult thing for him was when he saw that Parashat Bechukotai and Kitavo came true. He says, how do you know it came true? He says, because in there it says that when we get to such a low level and Hashem is forced to punish us, He'll get us to such level of starvation where the parents will eat their own children. Shem Yerachem. This is what it says in Parashat Kitavo. Now people says, yeah, but that didn't really happen. It actually did. Not once, not twice, not three times, multiple times. In the Bet HaMikdash HaRishon, you see in Echa, in the book of Echa, Lamentations, we read on Tisha B'Av. Why do you think everybody cries? Because they're the only ones that understand what it says. It says that Nashim Tzadkaniyot, the Tzadikot of yesterday, now Hashem Yerachem are eating their own kids. What happened? Well, you don't have McDonald's? You don't have something else? No. Second Bet HaMikdash, same thing. Whoa, okay, so Kvod Arab, this happened 2,000 years ago. Chalas with this scary stuff. Problem is, it happened 70 years ago also, in the Holocaust. Multiple stories, Arav Nisimi again, that you guys have, Allah Shalom, You have the book here on the table. You should read the book. Why? He says that one of the people he met that survived the Holocaust, he says the worst part of the Holocaust is when they would change us from place to place, from Auschwitz to another deathly camp. Why? Because you see how everybody's is starving to death to such an extent they can't wait for the other guy to die so they can eat his liver. Rachmana litzlan, this is what's happening. Why is Hashem, the loving God that we have, do such a thing to his nation? He loves us. He says to the prophet, I love you. I love you. He says to us, I love you. So why would such a loving God do such a thing to us? The reason why, Rabotai, is because we don't have free choice. We have choice. And what is choice? Choice means you go to work, you make money. You don't go to work, the boss sends somebody to your house and he beats you up. That's what we have. That's what we have. Hashem said, I created the world. I created Shamayim Va'aretz. I created everything for you. I created everything in 6 days, not because it took me 6 days because I had to get a license and a contract and this one and that one. I created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh like I need to sleep. No, I minimized myself. I minimized myself to slow down creation so I can give you a gift, like to feel like me once a week. Even though I created everything in a moment, I put everything in different places, the Midrash says. Hashem put everything in different places, and over the 6 days, he put it in the right place. So everything was, in essence, in outer space, in the cosmos, the sun, the moon, everything. But over the 6 days, Hashem took it just like a builder. A builder buys all of the tools, all the stones, all the sheetrock, all the everything. But over a period of time, he puts everything in place. Le'avdil, Hashem Yitbarach did the same thing. I create everything in a moment. But I wanted to put it all together one piece at a time, one piece every day. Why? Because there's no way for my child to feel like me. If he doesn't feel like me, he's not going to think I'm his father. You have to feel like your father. You have to identify with your father to know he's your father. So he says, so I'm going to do it. So I'm going to actually give you a gift. He says to Moshe Rabbeinu even before Ar Sinai, Gemara Masechet Shabbat, Matana Gdola yesh li bebet gnazai. I have a big gift in my treasure chest. V'Shabbat Shema, and its name is Shabbat. Go and tell Am Yisrael, I'm going to give it to her. I'm going to gift it to her. It's my biggest matana that I have. Even before Matana Torah. It's my biggest matana. Why? Because Am Yisrael said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe, where are you taking us out of Egypt, this dangerous desert, pikuach nefesh? Why do we have to go? What are we going to get for it? So Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem, what do I tell them? Hashem says, tell them they're going to get Olam Haba. They said, okay, this Olam Haba of yours. Anybody go there and come back? Can tell us what it looks like? And like today, every day, he's going to tell, this Olam Haba you keep talking about. Anybody go there and come back? Yeah, a few people did, by the way. But anyway, anybody go there and come back? It's called near-death experience. Approximately 30 million people have experienced it. Now, documented at least. How many more? I have no idea, not documented. But as far as actual people were asking questions to Hashem, this Olam Haba of yours, anybody come back? Can we feel, can we see something? Hashem said, yeah, I have Shabbat. Shabbat is like Olam Haba. If you celebrate Shabbat the right way. If your whole Shabbat is about chulent and jachnun and on all the delicious foods, but that you eat, you go to sleep. You eat, you go to Bekneset, you eat, you go to sleep. That's your whole Shabbat. That's not Olam Haba. Chas v'shalom if that's Olam Haba. Shem Yachem, what Olam Haba we have. We're all going to be fat people in Olam Haba. What are we going to have? That's Olam Haba. Just eat jachnun, eat chulent, eat the chamin, that's couscous and everything else. That's Olam Haba. Shem Yachem, what Olam Haba? Rather Olam Haba already if that's Olam Haba. What's Olam Haba? Olam Haba is if you connect the Torah to your Shabbat. Olam Haba is if you delve in Torah and you understand why you're even here Bechlal. Because the zchuyot that you get for learning Torah on Shabbat is at least 1,000-fold more than what you get for the rest of the week. To such an extent that Rabbi Ovadia Alav Shalom used to give up on his sleep on Shabbat. He wouldn't sleep at all, not a minute. He wouldn't sleep. They ask him, Kvod Harav, you're not tired, you should sleep, something, it's rest. Isn't that oneg? He says, no, oneg is learning Torah. He goes, yeah, but you could sleep a little bit. He goes, you think I'm going to miss out on the mitzvah? 1,000-fold of my mitzvot on Shabbat learning Torah? Once a person learns real Torah, not just with the guys to have fun and have a few cookies and tea, but Mamash learns Torah, he understands what Olam Haba is. Once he shares Torah with his family, and the little kids know what Torah is, and the wife knows what Torah is, and everything he learned during the week, he gives a little drasha to his family, things like that. Once he actually has something to bring to the table other than chulent, he knows what Olam Haba is. So Hashem Yitbarach says, this is Olam Haba. This is a piece of Olam Haba, if you understand what it is. I gifted it to Am Yisrael. Why is it such a big gift? Because this gift required me to minimize myself, to change myself. Hashem, who doesn't change, had to change himself. How? He had to minimize himself. He says, it took me really a second, a rega. A rega is like a moment. Gemara Masechet Brachot says, what's a moment? What's a rega? Some say it's 1/15,000 of a second. 1/15,000 of a second. So this rega is how long it took him to really create the world. There's no actual time. But I had to change myself. Why? Because in order for you to feel that we're related, then I had to take everything and put it one piece at a time. One piece at a time. On Monday, on Sunday, on Monday, Tuesday, Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, Shishi. And then on the seventh day, no more creation. Why? Because that's something you can do also. You can't create. A human being, as smart as he can be, he can't create anything. Even if you say, yeah, but what about those scientists from Russia that put together some stem cells and they got a sheep together? They didn't create it. They just took what already existed. They took what already existed, and now they have a sheep. Creating means you took nothing and you got something out of it. That is something we cannot do. We cannot create. We can innovate. We can make things more meshuchlalim, more complicated, more advanced, and so on, but we cannot create. Hashem is the only one that can create. That's why he's called the creator and we're the creation. Now Hashem says, since you can't create, we can't have the same feeling as creation. What we can do is both of us cannot create. So why is that significant? Because on Shabbat I didn't create. I stopped creating. By not creating, you actually created Shabbat. But nonetheless, that's the 39 melachot. The 39 restrictions that we have on Shabbat, 39 things that we have on Shabbat, are 39 things that are in essence creations. They're taking one thing and turning it into something else. Now, it's not necessary that you're not allowed to work. A lot of people think that you're not allowed to work. It's completely not true. Just ask your wife. On Shabbat, she works harder than the rest of the week. It's not that you can't work. It's that you cannot do certain things that were not allowed, that were allowed to be done in order to build the Beit HaMikdash. And the reason why is because Hashem symbolically told us that even to build my own house in this world, you're not allowed to do on Shabbat, because Shabbat is even more significant than that. And that's why the Rambam in Ilchot Shabbat, chapter 30, last halacha, says that a Jew that violates Shabbat is 100% an idol worshipper. Idol worshipper. He's not considered part of Am Yisrael. He's considered an idol worshipper like the Christians. He's considered an idol worshipper like the guys that bought a Buddha statue for $15 from Chinatown and bowed to him like he's going to do something. Same thing, Hashem Yachem, a Jew. Why? He says because he took the biggest present in the world, and the Gemara says he spit in Hashem's face. He's like he's running in the middle of the street, and he's screaming, Hashem, I don't believe in you. Now, this mitzvah of Shabbat, all of you know. You've all heard of it. But a lot of Am Yisrael did not hear it. I heard about it, but I didn't know some of the stuff I just told you. Every Jew, as a matter of fact, every person on the planet has heard of Shabbat. Why? Because the best proof that the Torah is the first divine document and last divine document is actually the name Shabbat. The fact that we have a week based on 7 days. That alone is a proof. Why? Because if, let's say, for example, there was some other document before it, or we just created it, a little tiny nation created the Torah, why would the rest of the world listen to us and also follow the 7 days, 24-hour day system? The 7 day system came from the Torah. It didn't come from anywhere else. The 24-hour-a-day system came from the Torah. Didn't come from anywhere else. So how come everyone agrees that the first day of the week is Yom Rishon? They call it Sunday, after one of their idols. But in reality, until recent generations, we didn't have Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi'i, Chamishi. We didn't have such names. We didn't have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We didn't have that. When you ask somebody, what day is today? And if it was Sunday, you would say, Rishon b'Shabbat. It's the first day of Shabbat. What do you mean? We're one day closer to Shabbat. Meaning your whole week, you're getting ready for Shabbat. All of creation was getting ready for Shabbat. Jew, non-Jew, everybody's getting ready for Shabbat. The whole world was revolving around Shabbat. So when a Jew feels like his Shabbat is a time to take a nap, it's not really Shabbat. When a Jew feels like his time on Shabbat is to go to the beach, it's not really Shabbat. He simply doesn't understand the magnitude of Shabbat. Now, we came to the United States almost 30 years ago. I was 10 years old and only knew about 3 or 4 letters in the English alphabet. But when you're 10 years old, you catch up to the language very quickly. By the time I was a teenager, even though I had a few jobs, I already learned to work. I had a few newspaper routes. I had worked in a clothing store, in a shoe store, and I was also an athlete and a good student in school. But that was my generation, the last of the Mohicans. In this generation, we only start getting jobs at 35. My generation, Baruch HaShem, at 10 years old, you already have a job. If not, you're not going to eat. This generation, 35 years old, maybe you get your first job. What? At 34, you just took out the bottle out of the binky came out. At 34 years old, the guy still has a binky sometimes because he's playing video games with his friends. 34-year-old men play video games. And people think this is normal. What are you doing this weekend? I'm playing video games. Wait, didn't you just turn 40 last week? Yeah, what's the matter? What's wrong with playing video games? You're 40 years old. Video games are for children, for toddlers. This is the generation we live today. Why don't you go to work? Why don't you find a zivug? Who's going to want to marry a guy who plays video games at 35 years old? What? Somebody's going to play video games with him, maybe. This is the generation we live in. People play video games at 40 years old. Instead of going to work, instead of doing something, instead of learning Torah, actually having mashmaut to their life, we play nonsense. So my generation is a little different. At 18 years old, I joined Wall Street. But Wall Street is not for the weak of heart. Wall Street is not for people that want to be spoon-fed. Wall Street is survival of the fittest. Wall Street people, they try to take whatever they can get out of each other and out of the clients and out of anybody that has any type of heart movement. Anyone that moves, anyone that walks, anyone that speaks, they try to take advantage. Because everything is an opportunity, including the employees, the employers, and anything. So for the first few years, I had to pay my dues, work for other people. They made a ton of money off of my work. I barely made ends meet. Most I ever made was maybe $1,500 a month. The work schedule would mean I would have to leave my house at 6:30 in the morning, get to the office by 8, because you have to take the bus. We actually travel in New York, unlike Florida, that no one wants to travel, past 15 minutes. In New York, the average person travels an hour each way to work. Today, I tell people, you have a lecture, you have a shiur. He goes, where is it? Oh, it's in Aventura. Oh, that's far. I said, where do you live? He goes, I live in Hollywood. I said, I live in Hollywood. It's 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. With traffic, 25. He goes, yeah, it's far. I said, what, you're still using the carts you have to carry on top of your head? Oh, you have a car. He goes, no, I have a car. I goes, so press the pedal. It's far. It's 25-minute drive. Hashem Yirachem. Kaparat avonot. Come. I think there's some chairs in the back over here, I think. So, people don't want to travel. I saw a young kid, cute kid outside, and apparently he knew, he knew who I was. I said, you're going to come for the shiur? He goes, it's going to be on the internet? I said, yeah, Baruch Hashem, Be'ezrat Hashem, it's going to be on the internet, but live is much better. You get to be part of the shiur, you can interrupt me, you could throw curveballs at me, you could throw tomatoes at me, be part of the shiur. No, I'll watch it on the internet, it's much more comfortable. This is the generation we live in. So first few years I paid my dues. I worked for Wall Street and didn't make so much money. 8 o'clock in the morning I had to be at work, already making phone calls. 8 o'clock at night is when the job ended. Get on the bus again, another hour, hour and a half home. I had to study for the Series 7, which is 265 question test to get a license. And sleep a couple of hours and get back to work every day. If you had results, you survived, you made it to the next day. No results, no job. After a few years of doing this, eventually I went to a different firm, and the supposable partner that I started with was already in the business for maybe 10 or more years, already had a few clients, and he said, you're going to get some accounts and I'll develop them. I said, no problem, and we had a deal. After he reneged on a deal only 30 days later, because I brought all the clients but he didn't feel like working, I told him, okay, so give me at least the money that we made from the clients. He goes, no, I didn't promise you that. Let's do it. It's another month. Long story short, after 2 months of playing with me, the partnership broke. But then I told the branch manager, listen, I want to be independent. Even though I'm new, I don't have any clients, I don't really have much to bring to the table other than the work ethics. I want to be independent. I don't want any more partners because I've had enough. I've already been in the business for 3 years and not much to show for it. He says, what are your intentions here? And I said, to buy you out. And I'm a young kid with a lot of chutzpah, but I had a good work ethics. He found it, entertaining that this little kid with a cuckoo, with a ponytail, it says he'll buy you out. The guy's in the business for 20 years. And he said, okay, fine, no problem. I think it was the next day or 2 days later, after he told me officially I'm allowed to be independent, September 11th happened. Not exactly the most ideal time to have clients, but for me it was a perfect time. Why? Everyone hated their broker, so I can get their clients. All you have to do is make phone calls. Long story short, I worked during a time that nobody else worked, but I also realized that I have one thing that they don't have. I have my youth and I have work ethics that most people don't want to have. And the reason why is because they want to have a life. They want to have a wife, they want to have kids, they want to have stuff to do. I just wanted to be a millionaire. So they want to work from 9 to 5. So I figured, okay, they've been in the business for 20 years, 9 to 5. I can't catch up to 20 years with a normal schedule. So what could I do? I'm going to start my day at 5:36, get to the office by 6:37, do any research that I need to do by 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, start making phone calls. Stop making phone calls at midnight, because officially at midnight, I can't call anyone anymore, because even 3 hours back is California, and after 9 o'clock p.m., you cannot call anybody legally, unless they're your client already. So I'll work all the way till midnight, from 6 a.m., and then go on the bus, get home by around 1:30, 2 o'clock, sleep for a couple of hours, and Baruch HaShem, get back to the next day, a few hours. Perfect plan, no? I thought it was a wonderful plan. All the people in my neighborhood made fun of me, though. They said, why you come home from 2 o'clock in the morning from your job? Where do you work? I said, I work on Wall Street. I said, slavery ended 3,000 years ago. So I continued this, but the first few months I didn't really make much money. I had struggled. I had to borrow $1 every day from this guy named Dimitri in order to buy coffee and a donut, and that was my food for the day. But after about 6 months, I made my first $1,000, which for me was all the money in the world. The next month I made $5,000. The next month I made another $5,000 or $6,000. Next month I made $10,000. By November of 2002, approximately a year after I started, I made $117,000 in 1 month. I broke a company record in that office at least. But then after that, a few of my investments worked out, a few deals worked out. I gathered a lot of clients in a really terrible time. A lot of my clients made a lot of money in a bad market. And I started building the business. A year later, I became the number 3 largest producing broker in the country. On a bad month, we'd make a couple $100,000 a month. Then I decided to leave the company, start my own, start hiring people, analysts, brokers. I trained about 135 different people to become good salesmen. Some succeeded in a big way, some failed miserably. I fired a couple of people, Baruch HaShem, that ended up becoming Ponzi schemers. So actually both of them are in jail. One guy got off, the third one got off. But Baruch HaShem, a lot of interesting stories on Wall Street. On that alone, we could write a book, but that book is not going to help you. What's going to help you is what happened after. By 2006, I got to a point where I reached my best month of the year, which was May of 2006. I made $1.6 million for a month. Really a day. It was a big deal. I decided to go on vacation for 40 days. Moshe Rabbeinu went to Mount Sinai for 40 days. I went to Las Vegas for 40 days. Hashem didn't like it so much. I didn't lose any money, but Hashem ran out of patience after that. And after that, everything started going downhill. So I decided, okay, you know what, business is having a slowdown. Let me do some other things. Business is still going. We're still making money like it's garbage pails with money every month. Not as much as a few months before, but we're still doing okay. We're not struggling. But let's do some other stuff. Let me take care of my health. I decided to have an elective surgery, and something went wrong with the surgery. I woke up out of the surgery screaming and yelling and asking everyone to kill me because the pain was intolerable. My wife didn't want to listen. My mom didn't want to agree. And the doctors had no clue what just happened. After a few hours of this screaming and yelling, eventually the most amount of morphine legal allowed was actually put into my system, which calmed me down. Because it was an elective surgery, they couldn't wait to release me. Because if they kept me in the hospital, they would probably have a lawsuit on their hand. And they left me. They wanted me to go home. I thought, okay, the pain is in the past. I'm a very optimistic person usually. And I went home. I went to sleep. I woke up 45 minutes later with even worse pain than I had a few hours earlier. Only this time it didn't stop for 62 days. And for 62 days, my body slowly but surely continued to fail. And it had nothing to do with the surgery, because now it wasn't pain where the surgery was. Now it was pain everywhere, from the neck all the way to the bottom of the feet. My liver started failing. I started urinating blood. My eyes started bleeding. My ear started bleeding. Everything started bleeding. Went to the doctors, the emergency rooms, and so on and so forth. And everyone said, listen, he's dying, but we have no idea why. After 2 months of this Gehenom on earth, my body started calming down. And I figured, God's given me another chance. But I thought, again, it's the same God I've believed in for the last 26 years. My kind of God. The God that I could just do whatever I want. Not the God that says, Im bechukotai telechu, v'asitem otam. Not that one. The one that I invented in my mind, like 99% of the population. The one that says, you do you, I do me. You want to keep my mitzvot? Ashrecha. You don't want? No problem. That's the kind of God I believed in. Which is also the reason why Mechalel Shabbat is considered an idol worshiper. Because even if he tells you, listen, I believe in God more than you. I love God more than you. I sing all the time, Ish Ma'amin Lo Mefached, with Eyal Golan. Whoever believes is never afraid. And I sing songs like they do in the soccer stadiums. Akadosh Baruch Hu, Anachnu Ohavim Otcha. Akadosh Baruch Hu, we love you. They sing in the stadium. But 99% of them Mechalel Shabbat. Torah says, yeah, they say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but it's a different one. They say they love Hashem. A lot of people say they love Hashem. It's a different Hashem though. It's just someone that's called Hashem in their mind. Because the Hashem of Am Yisrael has rules. He has rules. And he says if you don't follow the rules, you have a serious, serious problem. Now most people think, okay, I'll worry about it when I get there. Baruch Hashem, there's people like me that got there early. Because after 2 months, I thought it was over. I thought I could go back to my life, go back to making money, go back to building my firm. My intention was to build the next Merrill Lynch, the next Goldman Sachs, the next big Wall Street empire. I had the knowledge, I had the ability, I had everything that you need to have in order to do it. Only thing I didn't have any bracha. A lot of people make a lot of money, but very few have bracha. Plenty of people make a lot of money. You see a lot of people make a lot of money, but they're always struggling. You ever see those people? They have a house bigger than Antiochus, but they barely know how they're going to pay the mortgage. They have a car, you look at the parking lot sometimes of the houses in Jewish communities I'm talking about. You see the park, just the garage, you see the parking lot, they have $4,000 or $5,000 in the garage. $4,000 or $5,000 worth of payments a month. This guy has a Mercedes, the other one has a this one, has a that one. They have $4,000 or $5,000 a month in payments just for cars. What a bizbuz kesef, what a waste of money. And he asks the guy, listen, maybe you want to donate to help some Jews do tshuva, maybe you want to donate to some homeless people, maybe you want to donate for the Chag, something. No, I don't have any money. What do you mean you don't have any money? You have $5,000 sitting in the garage, you don't even use it. Very few people have bracha in their money. Sometimes even if they don't have the toys, they still don't have the bracha. And the reason is because Hashem decides if you have bracha in your money based on actions. The Gemara in Rosh HaShanah, page 17a, and also Beitzah in 17b, says that Hashem decides what parnasah we're going to get on Rosh HaShanah. I'm sorry, 16a, 16b, both of them. Hashem decides what parnasah you're going to get on Rosh HaShanah. So on Rosh HaShanah, in a couple of days from now, every one of us are going to Beit Knesset. Hashem Yitbarach, we love you. Amelech, Amelech, Amelech. We all say the Melech. We say, Hashem, you're the king, you're the king, you're the king. In reality, you should know, He's not only deciding if you're going to live or die, or what's going to, He's going to decide if you can have any money. That everyone wants to pray. Once you tell people you have to pray for money, everyone comes to the Beit Knesset on Rosh HaShanah. Everyone comes to the Beit Knesset on Rosh HaShanah. Because why? It's the time to pray for money. So now, I had money. Plenty of it. Now, I didn't have any bracha. Now, also, I started to realize I don't really have other things either. I don't have health. I don't feel that good. I'm still in pain. But not as much as I was after the surgery. 9 months later, after the surgery, I wake up with a pain in my leg. By the next day, I'm in the intensive care unit. They said that I have an infection in between two muscles that connect the leg to the rectal area, that is so big and so dangerous that if I would have waited another couple of hours, the infection would have exploded, gone straight into my blood system, and I would have died within an hour. Sir, we have to give you a surgery immediately. Now, what they didn't tell me is that the recovery is worse than the surgery. The recovery for this type of surgery is they don't stitch you up. In fact, they leave it open, and they keep reopening it every few hours to let the infection come out, just to make sure if you didn't have enough kaparat avenot, now you're going to have. So now you're in an intensive care unit for a few weeks. A few people next to me died. A few other people were screaming as much as I was. You compare screams, and everyone hates each other. Why? You're tired of hearing him scream, even though you're also screaming. Bemet. This is what's happened. What, you think everybody's friends in the hospital? No, he's like, shut up already. Ah, well, you scream also. Yeah, but I can scream. Everybody's screaming because you're in pain. He's scared. The guy's in pain. No one cares. The doctor's like, sir, we already gave you the painkillers 3 hours ago. I said, okay, 3 hours ago I had pain. You gave it to me. It worked for 3 minutes. I'm still in pain 3 hours later. What do you think? I'm a junkie? I want to have pain. They don't care. We have a system. They treat you like cattle. By the way, the worst sleep you're ever going to get is in a hospital. Why? They wake you up every 2 hours to make sure you're alive. I said, if you let me sleep, I'll stay alive. If you keep me like this, I'm going to die soon. But not from the disease, from you. What a kaparat avonot. You're in there for a month. Shem Erachem. Even your oivim, your enemies, you don't want them to have such experiences. Anyway, after that, suffering, pain, and so on. You go back to work, go back to your world, no tshuva, no nothing. You're thinking, okay, this happens. You know, things happen in people's life. People always think that, oh yeah, you know, some people, they have good luck. Some people, they have bad luck. Some people, they have good luck. They get married when they're young. They have kids when they're young. They make money when they're young. Everything when they're young. Everything is good. Everything is great. They're just lucky people. The Chafetz Chaim says these people are a disaster. Who? Those people that say such stupid things. That some people are lucky. There's no such thing as some people are lucky. Some people Hashem decides to give this, and some people Hashem decides to give that. But some people, they say, yeah, but this guy is unlucky. He got sick. He lost money. He did this. He's just an unlucky guy. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to me. It happened to him. It's not going to happen to me. It's also in this week's parasha. It's also in this week's parasha where Hashem Yitbarach says to Am Yisrael, make sure you're not one of these people that says, Shalom yeli. Peace will be upon me. I could just do whatever I need to do. I'm okay with Hashem. We'll figure things out. Shalom yeli. Why? Because for that you get two punishments. One for the sin, and two for being so foolish and thinking that you're excluded from the system. And Rashi says on the Pasuk, he says, a person that says Shalom yeli, meaning I'll be religious in my heart. I don't have to do anything about it. Everything is going to be okay. Don't worry so much, Rabbi. Don't worry so much. Not everybody has your life. Don't worry, I'm going to be okay. Hashem understands me. We're in a different generation now. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have a car. That's why he didn't drive on Shabbat. Moshe Rabbeinu, everybody was wearing a sack as their clothing. Today, they don't sell sacks in the stores, so we wear mini skirts. What? Blame Hashem. If he didn't want mini skirts, he wouldn't give us the idea. This is the type of stuff that people say to me all the time. Like, why would Hashem allow us to invent skirts, mini skirts, and immodest clothing if he didn't want us to be immodest? Why did Hashem allow us to invent cars if he didn't want us to drive on Shabbat? Why didn't he just have the car turn off on Shabbat automatically? Because that eliminates free choice, by the way. But anyway, a person that says such things, it's a person that says Shalom yeli. And Rashi and Onkelos say the same thing. They complete each other, and they say, someone that says Shalom yeli, peace will be upon me. I could just be religious in my heart. I could just do my thing, and eventually I'll do tshuva. Eventually I'll be a tzaddik. Eventually, when I get to it, I have to make a few million first for the Rav. Let me make a few $1 million, then I'll be more religious than you. I'll be like a Moshe Rabbeinu in our generation. I just need a few $1 million though first. I need to work on Shabbat, just this Shabbat. Only one more Shabbat, I work on Shabbat, then I keep every Shabbat. Such a person, Rashi says, all of the sins that he made by accident his whole life, because he simply didn't know, Hashem until this point says he didn't know Misken, he's my son, she's my daughter, I love her so much, she didn't know anything. I was going to let this all go once they did tshuva, because they didn't know. But now that he says, Shalom yeli, now he says, no, I'll just do when I get a chance. Now, not only do I have to punish him for the things he knows, now I have to punish him for all the things he didn't know until this point. For being such a chutzpan, for thinking he could fool me, for thinking I am the king of kings and I'm just going to wait for him. Like I have nothing to do. You're making the king wait. The Or HaChaim, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, had some extraordinary Talmidim. One of them was Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer. And he says, Rabbeinu Yonah uses a source, Rabbeinu Yonah in Sharei Tshuva, says that a sinner that delays repenting, that delays doing tshuva, his punishment continues to get worse every single day. Not just his whole life, one time. Every day the punishment accumulates. It's just like, for example, in the business world, the way we would convince people to invest a lot of money on a regular basis, not just one time, so we tell them, listen, there's a investment, that's good, but then there's the cumulative effect, where if you continuously add to the investment account on a regular basis, if we continuously get good results on a continuous basis, the effect, the return is magnified. For example, if you make 10% every year, every 7 years you double your money. Mathematically, it's no genius, no invention. You make 10% a year, 7 years in a row, you double your money every 7 years. That's how multimillionaires make a lot of money. By the way, most people think that millionaires make their money because they had a big hit. It's not true. Once in a while they have a big hit, but the reality, most people that made a lot of money in the investment world is because they made small returns, but on a consistent basis. Most important, don't lose any money. That's the most important. You can not make, and you can make a little, and you can make a lot, but just don't lose. Rule number one, Warren Buffett said, don't lose money. Rule number two, read number one. Don't lose any money. But of course, losing is part of winning. You just have to win more often. The point is that at this point, I thought that Shalom Yeli. I thought, yeah, I'll get to it. I knew what Judaism was. I wasn't exactly aware of the magnitude, but I knew that Shabbat existed. I kept Shabbat for about 1.5 years when I was 17. And HaShem said, I'm sick and tired of your secular status. It's time to wake you up. First surgery, terrible. Second surgery got worse. I figured, okay, this just happens. 6 months later, I'm back in the ICU unit. Another surgery, different part of the body. More pain, more screaming, more dead people next to me. Lots of fun. 3 months later, I'm back in the hospital. Another surgery, more pain, more painkillers. 2 months later, 1 month later. And then it gets to a point where I'm at a doctor or at a hospital at least twice a week. To such an extent that we went to over 50 doctors, 50 experts in every field. Holistic medicine, traditional medicine, the best of the best, the worst of the worst, whichever one you wanted. Anyone that had a pulse, we went to him. We had plenty of money. We need to use it for something. Might as well use it to live. One common denominator that all the doctors had. They all had the same diagnosis. What's the diagnosis? We have no idea what's wrong with you. We have no idea why you're always in pain 24 hours a day, why you keep getting recurring infections in different odd parts of your body that have no connection to each other even, and that you're in pain to such an extent where even to like sit or stand or communicate with you fine folks was not possible. And the reason why was because it would be very uncomfortable for you to be next to me. Because every few minutes, I would start screaming at the top of my lungs because I felt that I was being electrocuted. And if it wasn't the electrocution that hurt, it was the dagger feeling, like someone was ripping my skin apart into 50 pieces. And if that wasn't enough, once in a while I would get a real nice gift from Shamayim, Baruch Hashem. I would feel like I was on fire. For a good 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Nice. You ever burn your finger? Anybody ever burn their finger? It hurts a little bit, right? Imagine your whole body is like that for like 5 hours. My rabbi says, oh, it's domel tzarat. In the Torah, there's something called tzarat. It's a spiritual and physical disease. This continued for 7 years. Obviously, my business went to nothing. My friends became enemies because, of course, when the lion is weak, we still have to eat, so might as well eat him. Friends became enemies, business went to nothing, and I started losing my purpose to live because my purpose until now was to become successful. Now I can't be successful. Everything that I touched that used to turn to gold started turning into dust. Investments went wrong. Deals went wrong. One guy was supposed to, I wanted to expand the company because I was still optimistic. Still had the same brain, still had the same personality. Even though I was in a lot of pain, I was still trying to fight it through. Still had, the firm still had value, and I found a guy that I met playing poker in a casino. His name was Pete, Greek guy. And how do we meet? We met because I bluffed him on $60,000. And won. And he found it very, very interesting that I can bluff on that kind of money. In fact, the whole casino found it very interesting. So from that day on, everyone wanted to play with me. I had a lot of friends that wanted my money, though. Oh, such a good friends. When the whole casino stops when you walk in, that means you're the fish, by the way. You're not the shark. But the reality is that I didn't know that there's a rule in the Torah that if you gamble, number one, it's not allowed because it's considered moshav letzim. It's considered a place of clowns. Number two reasons of why you're not allowed to gamble is because it's considered gezel. It's considered stealing. Because the other side doesn't actually agree to give it to you. Even though you both have rules, there's rules. You both agree, if I win, I take the money. If you win, you take the money. You both agree. In reality, you only agree to these rules because, in reality, subconsciously, you believe you're going to win. Nobody goes to the casino saying, I'm going to lose. Everybody says, this time, I'm going to win. Yeah, but you've lost 900 times in a row. Exactly. What's the chances I'm going to lose 901? Exactly. I lost 900 times in a row. What's the chance of 901? Come on. Even flipping a coin is easier. Sue, what stupid you are. You should learn from me. You should come with me. Watch me win. And you lose 901. But why? Why is it considered stealing? Because you thought you're going to win. So once you lost, you don't really like the rules you agreed to anymore. So you're actually giving them the money, but it's against your will. What happens when you take something against somebody's will? It's considered stealing. So gambling is not allowed in Torah. And I can give you 8 other sources if you'd like. Because I know that Jewish people love to gamble. Because we love to do everything that's not allowed. So now, there's a pasuk in the Torah that Shlomo HaMelech says, Maim gnuvim im taku. Stolen water are sweeter. All water tastes the same, but the stolen one is sweeter. Why? Because it's stolen. It's the same exact water though. Same price, same everything. But it's stolen, I like it better. We like the sin much better because we have a yetzer. We have a yetzer that makes us want to do this sin because it makes it seem like it's glorious, it's magnified, it's everything, it's good. The yetzer mebalbel otanu. He confuses us to think the sin is good for us. So now, I met this Pete. We talked business after that, and Pete and I agreed he's going to buy a piece of the firm. Firm was valued at $48 million. He was going to invest $5 million into the firm. $4.8 million he was going to invest, buy 10%. But in order for him to get the money, is that he needed help to sell his building or refinance one of his buildings. I said, what's the problem? Let me see your building. I saw his building. I said, I could sell it for you, even though I'm not in the real estate business. I have contacts. I have this, I have that. No problem. He's like, yeah, okay, so you're going to do it? I said, no problem, I'll do it. So I got the lender to say, lend him money. So he's going to take the money against the building until we finally sell it. Give him $20 million against the building. And, which he already had a loan on it already. He had maybe borrowed maybe $13, $14 million on the building. But the building was worth more. So lend him 20, 25 million, whatever they were going to lend him at the time. I don't remember exactly. And out of the extras, you're going to give me the $4.8 million that he agreed to give me. Lender agrees. Baruch HaShem, everything is good. Deal. Right? Okay, when we're closing? We're closing next week. Baruch Hashem, next week we're closing. Pete says, listen, I got a problem closing on another building to buy it for my plumbing company. Oh, next month we're closing, he said. I'm buying another building for my plumbing company. I need to buy, but I need some money for the down payment. He said, well, how much is the down payment? He goes, down payment is $1.5 million. So how much you short? He goes, $500,000. I said, I'll give it to you. I'll give you $500,000. I'll write you a check for $500,000. No problem. I'll give you $500,000. Oh, really? Yeah, no problem. I have a bunch of money. You're investing because we could do more things. But it's not, I'm not broke. I have money. $500,000. I'll wire it to you right now. I'll wire you the $500,000. You're just going to give me, instead of $4.8 million, you're going to give me 5.3. Said I'm going to get, in a month from now, I'm going to get 5.3 million. What do I care about this $500,000? I'll get the money back anyway. I know he has the money because we're doing the building. So I lend him the money, no problem. Over the next couple of weeks, we get the agreement to him. The lawyers messed up the agreement, which is a story of itself. Anyway, the day before the closing, the day before I'm supposed to get $5.3 million, what happens? Lehman Brothers declares bankruptcy. Lehman Brothers was one of the biggest financial firms in the world. When they declared bankruptcy, the market officially declared crash. Everything crashed out of there. Why? Because Lehman Brothers was in control of lending everywhere. Anyone that ever borrowed any money on any corner in the world had some connection to Lehman Brothers. Didn't matter if it was a small broker, big broker, mom and pop, billionaire, company, everybody depended on Lehman Brothers. And Lehman Brothers, over a weekend, before the weekend, they were worth $150 billion. After the weekend, they were worth zero. Literally, overnight went to zero. Lender says, sorry, sir, we can't lend you any money. The borrower died. The lender died. It's called Lehman Brothers. Shem Achem, everything, like I said, that used to turn to gold, now turned back to ashes. This was one of many, many examples that I had to experience. By the way, it's been now, 12 years? I'm still waiting for the $500,000. So I couldn't sell the firm. Eventually the firm was dissolved. Eventually I left the business. But on the way out, there was a few other interesting stories. I downsized and downsized and downsized, eventually to just having a small little mom and pop hedge fund, just managing a few dollars of my own money and some other people. I had a few $100,000 left to trade. And to my name, I figured this is how I'm going to rebuild myself. One day, our biggest investment declares some type of financial issues. The market overreacts. At 9:30 in the morning, I had a few $100,000 of my own money plus other people's money. At 9:35, we all have zero. Things that it was literally, if it was a bigger miracle to lose the money than to make it in the first place. But by then, I cared less. And the reason why is because in between all of this time, I was introduced to a big chacham in a miraculous way, where one day my mom was calling a list of rabbis that she had to get a blessing for her dying son, me. And no one answered, but after 2 hours, she reached a number in Israel, and the woman said, "I'm sorry, ma'am," in Hebrew, obviously, it's the wrong number. My mom, after calling 2 hours to a bunch of rabbis and nobody's answering the phone, obviously at this point she starts breaking down and starts crying to the strange lady. But as Hashem runs the world, everything that He does is always the best. Gemara Masechet Brachot, at the end, you'll see a ma'amar from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, Kol de'avid rachamana letav avid. Everything that the merciful one does, it's always the best. Not it's always good, it's always the best. What's the difference? Good is our perception of good. The best means there's nothing else that can be better. So that means that, for example, if I wanted to go from here to New York, for example, I can go in a bunch of different ways. I can go in a plane, I can go on a motorcycle, I can go on a car, on a boat, plenty of ways. Hashem has an infinite amount of ways to take us from point A to point B. He always picks the best way. Meaning that anyone that says, I think Hashem made a mistake, this test is too big for me, this difficulty is too big for me, it's actually kfirah, it's actually heresy. Why? Because the foundation of our belief is that He knows the future, He knows the past, and He knows the best. Meaning, whatever you have in your life, it's the best. So now you're going to ask me, or someone else asked me, where was God during the Holocaust? What, it's the best to kill 6 million people? And the answer is yes. Why is it the best to kill 6 million of our brothers? Why is it the best to kill 6 million of our sisters? Why is it the best? Because if He didn't kill 6 million, there would be zero. Because right before the Holocaust, the assimilation rates around the world were over 80%. Meaning that we were literally one generation away from not being anymore. We were one generation away from not being Am Yisrael anymore. So it's either Hashem gave us the electric shock you give someone that died to bring him back to life, which is going to hurt a little bit, or a lot of bit, or you just let him die. And Hashem promised Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov that He's not going to let us die, even if it's going to hurt. So the answer that anyone's ever going to ask you, where was God during the Holocaust? The answer is in Parashat Bechukotai. The answer is in Parashat Kitavo. The answer is in Parashat Azinu and the rest of the Torah. Where was He? He's the one that did it. That's where He was. Why? To save us. Because it was the best. Out of the terrible circumstances that we put ourselves in, it was the best possibility. It was the best possibility, unfortunately. Now, what's so sad about this news? That all of us have grandparents that were there, and great-grandparents, and there were good people and there were bad people. But there was a lot of people there. And Be'ezrat Hashem, most of them are at a good place now. But they're crying still. Even though many of them are in Gan Eden, They're crying still now. Why are they crying? Because we are in a worse situation today than they were in before the Holocaust. Right now, there are parts of America that have over 90% assimilation. 90% assimilation, meaning 9 out of 10 people marry a non-Jew. Statistically speaking, if things continue as they are and people don't start doing serious tshuva, there will no longer be any more Jews within a couple of generations. They did a study after the Holocaust. They tracked 100 families that were Orthodox, 100 families that were what's considered today modern Orthodox, 100 families that were conservative, 100 families that were Reform, and 100 families that were secular, to see after 4 generations, what do we have left? The ultra-Orthodox, after 4 generations, have gone from 100, they've developed, they grew, Baruch HaShem, they got to over 3,300 people. 100 grew to 3,300 people. The modern Orthodox, or what's called in that day was a Masorti, still grew to 300 or so families. Drastic change, a 90% difference, but nonetheless still grew. The conservative dropped. How much? By 50%. 46 to be exact. 100 people after 4 generations, instead of growing as a result of reproduction, normal reproduction, if you have 2.1 babies per family, you're naturally going to grow. After 4 generations, they shrunk to 54 people. The Reform dropped to 13. They dropped 90% almost. And the reason why is because the rabbi of the Reform is usually not Jewish himself or herself. And instead of giving bar mitzvah to boys, they give bar mitzvahs to dogs. You can see this on the internet, unfortunately. They literally give bar mitzvah with a tefillin for $1,000 for a dog. The rabbi is a woman that's not even Jewish, Chinese. Chinese woman in Colorado heads the biggest Reform shul there. She's not even Jewish. That's Reform. They call themselves Reform Jews. But you would think this was the worst. The truth is, it's not the worst. The worst is the one that says, Shalom Yeli. The worst is the one that's secular, that says, I believe in God, so I go to Bikneset twice a year, on Yom Kippur and Rosh HaShanah. But I'm a bigger believer in God than you are. I do more than you. I give a lot of tzedakah, I give this, I give that. I do. But I do my way. The secular people, after 4 generations, were down to 4 people. 4 generations, 96% decline. PW research. 2013. That means that within 1 generation, the secular is no longer Jewish. Within 1 generation, the Reform is no longer Jewish. Within 1 to 1.5 generations, the Reform no longer Jewish. Only thing that's going to be left is the ultra-Orthodox and the modern Orthodox. What's the problem? The tests have changed today. The statistics are no longer as relevant. And the reason why is because at the time they started these studies, the biggest yetzer that people would have was maybe to go to 1 movie a year at the theater, because that's all they could afford. Today, with a press of a button, you could have all the gone nefesh in the world in front of you in a second. Back then, when they started the study, if you go to the government buildings in Florida to get a license or to get a passport or anything, you'll see pictures of what was in Florida 100 years ago. They show you pictures of goyim on the beach. On the beach, you see 100 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, you see that the goyim, the non-Jews, on the beach are more modest than the most righteous rabbanit in the world today. Their dress is 3 times their size. They all cover their head. They all cover their body. There's no such thing as short sleeve. They wore short sleeves, but they called it underwear. They wore shorts, but they called it underwear, meaning they wore it, but nobody ever saw it other than their spouse. Today we go outside with underwear. Today we tell our wives, honey, come on, no, you're coming or what? Yeah, but I only have underwear on. Perfect, come on, let's show the fellas. Let's show the fellas what I have. You tell your wife to go outside half naked or maybe even mamash naked. Why? We go to the beaches and we think it's okay. We have people that call themselves Orthodox in France. In France, it's almost like halakha. It's almost like halakha to go to the beach. But I'm not talking about go to the beach if you're secular. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Orthodox people. There are even rabbaniyot that go to the beach with a bikini. But she calls herself Orthodox. Why? We're confused. We think that Shalom Yeli is relevant. It's a mitzvah. We think that we can do whatever we want. And everything's going to be fine because we go to Beit Knesset here and there and we give a few shekels tzedakah. I didn't know all of this. I didn't know the magnitude of all these things, so I continued my life, but eventually I met a big chacham named Rabbi Ephraim. And Rabbi Ephraim, how did I meet him? When my mom called the wrong phone number in Israel, the woman ended up being my cousin. And she said, why are you crying? And she told her, I'm crying because my son is dying. And I need a blessing from a big rabbi. She says, well, why don't you talk to my brother, Rabbi Ephraim? Says, well, sure, will he talk to me? He's so busy learning and so on. She goes, of course, I'll talk to you. So she talks to him, and I didn't know that Rabbi Ephraim even existed. Because we left Israel, was very young, and we didn't really keep in touch with anyone. At least I didn't. My mom did, of course. And after a little bit of time of hearing my story from my mom, Rabbi Ephraim asked my mom if I speak Hebrew so he could talk to me, because he doesn't speak English. Because for him to learn English will be considered bitul Torah, wasting time. Instead of learning Torah, learning a language, it's a waste of time. That's why you see a lot of the chachamim, they're geniuses and everything, but they don't always speak multiple languages. And the reason why is because they don't want to waste their Torah time. So anyway, she says, yes, he speaks Hebrew. We got on the phone. He called me. We spoke for an hour and 40 minutes. And the reason why is because we hit it off right away. I found somebody who was very smart that had answers to questions I've had my whole life. Questions that I've always had. Things that I didn't think was such a big deal until I asked and I got the answer. I would ask him a question, he would give me an answer, whether it was about dinosaurs, it was about the purpose of life, it was why am I suffering, why am I sick, all types of interesting questions that people ask all the time. And I found out something very, very peculiar about the human being, especially the Jew. A Jew, unlike the Goyim, it's an obligation, not just a mitzvah, it's an obligation for him to ask questions. That's the whole Gemara. The whole oral Torah is questions and answers. Why is it an obligation for us to learn and ask questions? Whereas the Goyim, you go to church and they tell you, ask them, listen, prove to me such and such. Like, no, don't ask any questions. We're not allowed to ask questions. You just have to believe, my son. You have to believe. Say, yeah, but it doesn't make sense. You're saying that the Torah agrees with the New Testament. Yes, of course it agrees. The Torah is, it's a big deal. Yeah, but the reality is you look at the New Testament, it contradicts the Torah. Because no, of course not. What do you mean? I have proof. In the Torah it says that Yaakov Avinu came down to Mitzrayim with 70 nefashot. With 70 nefashot. In the New Testament it says 75. Did God forget how to count? In the Torah it says the Ma'arat al-Machpelah is in Hebron. In Hebron, we can see it today. You go check it if you want. Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov over there. New Testament says it's a Nablus. It's a different city altogether. What HaShem needed a GPS system? There's mistakes. There's actual real mistakes that a 5-year-old would know. In the Torah it says Mechalel Shabbat Mot Yumad. It's part of the 10 Commandments. Show me one guy that keeps Shabbat. Show me one Christian that keeps Shabbat. They don't even know how. Some of them says, no, I keep Shabbat. How do you keep Shabbat? Oh, I don't drive and I don't work. That doesn't mean you keep Shabbat. The donkey also doesn't drive and doesn't work on Shabbat. Doesn't mean he goes to Olam Haba, he keeps Shabbat. There's a lot of things to Shabbat. There's a lot of rules to Shabbat. You can't just say, oh, because I don't drive, I keep Shabbat. There's a lot of rules to Shabbat. We don't know the rules unless we learn the oral Torah. So I didn't know all this stuff. And I started asking questions and I realized these questions are changing my life. And I realized something peculiar. A Jew that has questions, if he doesn't answer them, or if he asks them and he can't get answers because he asked the wrong person, because not every rabbi is an expert in these types of questions. Some people know other things. They don't always know the answers to these questions or other questions. Some rabbis are experts in halacha. Some rabbis are experts in philosophy. Some rabbis are experts in musal. Some rabbis are experts in Torah and science, and so on and so forth. Not every rabbi knows everything, unless he's a gdol hador. So I asked some rabbis some questions, and they didn't give me answers. And I didn't know how much it bothered me. And I didn't realize that that was my basis for my lifestyle. Because I didn't get answers, I figured since they don't know the answers, that means that they don't know what they're talking about, just like I don't know what I'm talking about. So I rather listen to myself than somebody else's opinion. Because if he doesn't have the answer, and I don't have the answer, we're on equal ground. He just has a beard. Beard is free. The goat has a beard also. So I'm not going to listen to him. He's not going to listen to me. That's it. And I figured I'm going to make my own rules. When someone would ask me, listen, you really think it's a good idea to be married to a non-Jew? I said, what? Show me it's not. Show me one Jewish woman that's going to love me as much as this non-Jew. I said, you really think it's a good idea to drive on Shabbat? Show me it's not. Where does it say in the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu had a car? And you rationalize things. But then Hashem wakes you up, and he wakes you up, and he wakes you up. And he wakes you up in different ways. Me, Baruch Hashem, he had a nice special way. And now I started getting my answers, because after Hashem broke me to pieces, I was ready to get answers. Sometimes you have the answer punch you in the face, but you still don't want to accept it. Sometimes people ask a question because they want an answer. Sometimes they want to ask the question because they want to show that maybe you don't know, or they want to show you that they know, or they just want to justify their life. So they ask certain questions that justify their pre-existing behavior. They're not asking a question to actually get an answer. They're not asking a question in order to change their behavior. They're just asking a question just because they want to ask. So a person doesn't only need to be a one that asks questions, he has to be ready to be a vessel to accept the answers. The Gaon Mivilna in Igeret Agra writes his wife a letter, and he says, honey, I'm going to Israel, and in those days there wasn't a certainty you're going to come back. There's no planes. You go on a long trip, there's no guarantee you're coming back. So he wrote her a letter like a will. And one of the things he read, you could find this letter online, it's called Igeret Agra. He says, if the kids curse, if any of the children in the house, if they curse, hit them. Hit them. And at the end of the letter, he says, reason why he said to hit them, why? Because other people say, no, if they curse, maybe it just came out. You know, all of us, once in a while, it comes out. It comes out once in a while, you get really, really annoyed, something comes out. Gemara says somebody that curses can lose blessings of 70 years just for one curse. So we have to be careful with our mouth. Why? Because this mouth is supposed to bless Hashem. But the Gaon Mivina says, if a kid's curse, hit them right away. Why hit them? Because if they're already at a level of cursing, that means that they've made some type of sins, that the only way for them to do tshuva is by them getting hit, because they've developed something called a klipa. Their heart has become a heart of stone. And the only way to get water out of stone, if you're not Moshe Rabbeinu, is by hitting it. Is by hitting it. So you have to hit them, to wake them up. In order for them to be accepting of the truth, you have to hit them sometimes. In this generation, when do people do tshuva? After Hashem hits them. Apparently I needed a few hits. So after I got my hits, Hashem started sending me the answers. Because I became ready for the answers. And little by little I started realizing that the purpose of life is definitely not the direction that I'm on. The purpose of life is very, very different. And I started learning more and more Torah, Baruch Hashem, and started realizing that there's a lot of people just like me. A lot of people are on a road, driving 150 miles an hour, straight into a wall. What's the difference? They don't know, just like I didn't know, but I know now. Now the reason why I decided to leave Wall Street with no money, went broke, but to trust Hashem 100% that somehow He's going to pay all the bills, is because I figured there's not enough people telling people the truth of Torah. A lot of people teach Torah. You could find Torah in every corner. You could find Torah in every application, in every phone, in every corner. You can find Torah. Baruch Hashem, this generation has more Torah than the generation of the Rambam. The average Joe today can get Torah, more Torah on his phone than the Rambam had 900 years ago. All you need is an application, internet. You get the Shurei Torah to watch them, different rabbis, different sugyot, different gemarot, different mishnayot. Everything you want, you can get on your phone if you really want. You have an enormous amount of Torah, but it's also a case against us if we don't use it. But unfortunately, even though there's a lot of Torah in the world, still there's not a lot of people that know the truth. And the reason is because today we have Elohei HaKesef, Elohei HaZahav. A lot of people have turned, instead of God, Hashem Yitbarach, the God of the Torah, they turn to the God of money. So a lot of people are so worried about money, they're afraid to tell people the truth. They figure that if they tell people some of the things that I've been telling you for the last hour, maybe you're not going to donate. Maybe you're not going to come back to the shiur. Maybe you're not going to come to the Beknesset. Maybe you're going to be turned off. Maybe you're going to be turned on. All this different shikulim, all these different, weighings that they do, these accountings that they do, they figured that maybe I should give them a softer version of the Torah. Like a Smurfs Torah, like a cartoon. Problem is, it's not the same Torah. If anyone that reads just simple Parashat Shavua, we're obligated to read Parashat Shavua 3 times a week. Shtay mikra echad targum. Every male has to read it 3 times. Twice normal and 1 with commentary. Even if you read it once, but at least you understand it, meaning you read it in a language you understand, not just make the sounds in Hebrew. Actually understand what it says. Already you have to do tshuva, if you believe what it says. Why? Because it's scary. What it says in the Torah is scary. It says that at one point, there was only a few people in the world. One of them was named Cain. Cain didn't like his brother so much. He was a little jealous. He killed his brother. Hashem punished him forever. Destroyed his lineage after 7 generations. There's no more Cains in the world. But yeah, but one crime. He didn't say he made a lot of crimes. He made one crime. Punished him for eternity. Then you go to the next parasha, Parashat Noach. There was a bunch of people that didn't really like to follow the will of Hashem. They decided to go to clubs, to nightclubs, to bars, to steal from each other, to go to casinos. Like today, just 4,500 years ago. What did Hashem do? He destroyed everyone. There's no more from that generation, except the sons of Noach. That's it. But they all made a sin for a little while. What's the big deal? Why don't you just let it go? Because Hashem is He's not us. He's not a human being. He's the King of Kings. Just go to Parashat Noach. He destroyed the whole world. If you read the Midrash of what he did to them, Hashem Yirachem, he melted them. You know how you melt like sugar? You put a little a sugar cube in water, and it melts into nothing, and eventually there's nothing left. It all dissolves into the water. That's what he did with them. If that's not scary at Parashat Noach, we just started a Torah. You almost get a heart attack of what happened to people just a few years ago. It's the scary part. You go, you continue, you see the people in the time of Avraham Avinu. People in the time of Avraham Avinu, they decide, listen, we don't want any guests. No guests in our house. No guests, no tzedakah. No guests, no tzedakah, and we like a little bit of homosexuality on the side. A little bit of homosexuality on the side, and do that. Just make sure if you want to be a citizen, you have to be rich. You have to be rich. It's more than happy if you're homosexual, and don't invite any guests. These are the rules of the town. It's called Sodom. What did Hashem do? He destroyed all of it. Nothing was left. Till this day, even a fish cannot swim there. A fish. A worm is not even there. Anybody ever go to Yam HaMelech? There's not even worms. There's not even. No life whatsoever. 4,500 years later, nothing is left. If that's not scary, what's scary then? A woman looked, one of the people that was supposed to be saved, she just peeked to the back. Well, let me see what's happening. It's a normal reaction. It's a reflex. Look what's behind you. Half of you are going to look. Why? It's a reflex. If you heard a bomb behind you, you're going to look. So she peeked. Hashem turned it to salt. If that's not scary, what's scary? Every parasha has scary nightmares in it if you just know what it says. Problem is we don't. And the problem is that a lot of people that teach today, they pick the non-scary parts, dafka. Because the non-scary parts gets people just to come. But we don't need to just come. We don't need to be sheep. We need to be Jews. We need to know what the answers. And the reason why is because a Jew that asks questions and he doesn't get the answers, he has something called a safek. A safek means a doubt. A doubt has the same safek, has the same numerical value for the word Amalek. Amalek is the enemy of Hashem, not just Am Yisrael. It's the enemy of Hashem because they did everything specifically because they wanted to destroy belief in Hashem. And Hashem vowed, Hashem promised that before the end, He's going to destroy Amalek himself. Because Amalek is not only a nation, it's a doubt. It's a belief based on falsehood. Amalek is the source of all evil in the world, whether it be Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or atheism or simply the nationalistic mentality or equality. Some tzaddik send me a question. He's 15, 16 years old, sends me questions every few days. And he says, some feminist debated me. She says, look, even the Torah says it's supposed to be equality. I said, what does he mean, equality? He goes, yeah, that men and women are the same. I said, okay, then how come Hashem didn't make just men or just women? Why didn't He just make men? Everybody's men or everybody's women. No, the problem is that people think that it's supposed to be equality because nobody likes their job. The men want to be women and the women want to be men. The reality is there's no such thing as equality in the Torah. Everybody has a role. Your role, I can't do it. My role, you can't do. Simple. Doesn't mean that my role is better than yours, and doesn't mean that your role is better than mine. It simply means you are special, and so am I. The woman has a role. She's supposed to build the Jewish household. That's her role. That's why she doesn't have to go to Beit Knesset, not on Rosh HaShanah, not on Yom Kippur, and not on Shabbat, not any time throughout the entire year. She does not need to step into Beit Knesset. As a matter of fact, the Gaon Vilna told his wife, don't ever go to Beit Knesset. Don't ever go to Beit Knesset. Why? Only bad things happen for women there. Chit-chat, Lashon Hara, don't go to Beit Knesset. Arav Ovadia, alav Shalom, he didn't even have an Ezrat Nashim. He didn't have a women's section in his Beit Knesset. His own Beit Knesset didn't have a women's section. Even if you wanted to go, you can't go. His own wife wanted to go, you can't go. Why? There's no women's section. Why? The Beit Knesset is not for you. Why? What's for you? Build the house. That's when the Gemara, the Chachamim, what they call their wives? Bait. What's bait? House. Where's my house? Wherever my wife is. My house is wherever my wife is. My house sometimes is in Florida, sometimes it's in New York, sometimes it's in Israel. Wherever my wife is, that's my house. Not the sheetrock and the stones. But when a husband tells his wife she's the house, then she's going to want to build the house. But when the husband tells the wife she's a smartut, she's a little towel that cleans and cooks, and that's all she's good for, of course she wants to be something else. Of course she wants to go to the synagogue, because over there they appreciate her. So obviously a person needs to know the reason why she wants to be something else is because you're not making her feel good about what she is. Marriage is a wonderful thing. The problem is, Rabbi again used to say, is Hashem gave it to children. People don't know how to be married. So a person needs to know, you have a role. The wife has a role. She has to build the house. The husband has to build the Torah. If the husband doesn't have Torah, don't expect your kids to be tzaddikim. Don't expect your kids to have good midot. Don't expect your kids to even marry Jews. In this generation, there's so much yetzer, there's so much pritzut in the streets. If you're not chared for Torah, you're not going to make it. All the 50-50s, you're not going to make it. Why? Because we're in a generation that, number one, is clueless, and number two, has more options to sin against Hashem than any other generation in history. In one button, you can either become a Talmid Chacham or you can become Amalek. In one button on your phone. Depends which website you go to. One button, one phone call, one meeting, one job, one deal. It's very simple. And this is some of the things that a lot of people don't like to share. And I realized that if I knew the price of going against Hashem, I'm not telling you I would have changed right away. I'm not telling you anything. All I'm saying at least I would have had a chance. At least I would have had it, because it's always 50-50. I can't tell you I would have listened to some tzaddik that would have told me, listen, here's the Torah, here's the truth, mechalel Shabbat, mot yumat, all the stuff, all the punishments, all the gehinom, all that stuff, and I would listen right away. I can't tell you for sure I would have listened, but I can't tell you for sure I wouldn't have listened. But the truth be told is that no one has the right to decide for me. No one has the right to decide for you of what you're going to listen to and what you're not going to listen to. That's why Hashem put it in the Chumash. The basic level of Torah that every Jew has to learn. And any Jew that learns the Chumash with basic level commentary by Rashi actually understands what's being said here. Not just reads it literally like the Goyim. Actually understands what it meant. What's meant by mot yumat. Why does it say die twice on Mechal Shabbat? Because Rashi explains, death in this world, death in Olam Haba. What's Olam Haba? And he starts going into things that are above and beyond our pay grade. Ooh, wow. There's no Olam Haba, that means suffering, that means terrible, and so on and so forth. Once he understands there's a price for these things, it's a price. The decision is different. Guy goes to a restaurant, he says, listen, I want steak, and the beans, and the rice, and the other steak, and the lamb, and the this, and the that. It's like, sir, wait, did you turn around the menu to see the price for everything? Goes, oh, there's a price? I just thought it just says this, all the things you have. Goes, yeah. No, that is the brochure. That's the brochure for the restaurant of what we serve. You have to turn it around, and that's the menu. The menu has the prices on it. The guy turns around the menu, and he becomes weak in a moment. Why? He sees the steak is $150. All of a sudden, he's not hungry anymore. He sees the rice that costs 37 cents is $80 because it's pink, because it's yellow, because it came from Guatemala or something. It came from some hole in the world, and they're going to put a price on it. All of a sudden, he doesn't want to be just vegetarian. He wants to be vegan. He wants to be anti-rice. He wants to have protests against rice. He doesn't want anyone to ever eat rice again if it's going to be sold for $87 for a little plate. All of a sudden, he says to the guy, listen, you have some water for free from the faucet? Why? He knows the price. Once we know the price, Rabotai, everything changes. And that's the most important thing that we need to know before Rosh HaShanah. We need to know the price. What's on the line? On Rosh HaShanah, Am Israel needs to know the price. They have to come up to Hashem and they say, listen, Hashem, Chatanu Avinu Pashanu, we sinned accidentally, on purpose, intentionally. We did a bunch of things. But now we know the price of it because we learned Parashat Shavua, we learned the book of Deuteronomy, Sefer Dvarim, we learned Kitavo, we learned Nitzavim, we learned all of these different things. We saw what you do. You're not joking, Hashem. We learn what's happening. We know there's a price to this. I promise next year is going to be better. I promise this year, I'm already promising now, this year I'm going to learn Torah every day. I already learned every day till now. See, I learned the last few days. I only found out on Thursday. But since Thursday until Sunday, I already learned every day. Okay, it's not that much, Hashem. But it shows I'm serious. I showed up every day. I learned 15 minutes. I learned 5 hours. I'm not Rabbeinu Tam. I just 15 minutes a day. I got 15 minutes, Hashem. I got 15 minutes a day. You start something. That's how I start, 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes a day. Little by little, you build it up from there. Why? Because you know it's a mitzvah from the Torah to learn every day. I'm going to tell you one last thing that's going to make everyone think a little bit over this next few days. A lot of people like to delay tshuva, especially young people. Young people love to delay tshuva. Why? I said, listen, it's hard to do tshuva when you're single. You were married, so you get a tshuva, your wife joined you and everything. It becomes easier when you have somebody to help you. Thinking you have a choice, like Hashem is just going to wait until you get married. Who says you're going to get married? Who says you're going to live the week? Who can tell me for sure? I know for sure I'm going to wake up tomorrow. Who can tell me that? One of my, unfortunately, people that used to come to a couple of my shiurim, she did aliyah a year ago. She's in her 40s. Tzadikah, kisui rosh, everything. Early 40s. Perfectly healthy. Tzadikah. On Sunday, she had a brain aneurysm. On Monday, she died. Last week. Did you think that she thought, that anyone thought, that she is going to even have the smallest chance of dying at that age on that day? right before Rosh HaShanah? It wasn't even a thought. No one even worries about death. Even the 90-year-old. You think that Warren Buffett, he's 900 years old already. The guy knows Antiochus. You think he's worried about dying? No, he's still doing business deals. Why are you doing a 20-year business deal? You're 90. You're 90. What are you doing a 20-year deal? Who's going to see it? Who cares in 20? You're not going to live to see it. No, what do you mean? Everyone thinks they're going to live forever. So they delay tshuva. They delay tshuva. People know, once I get married, once I get rich, once I have this, once I have this. And the Or Israel says a person that delays tshuva does not understand, Rabotai, how much problems he's giving himself, what kind of problems, what kind of tzarot he's bringing to himself, how much he's magnifying the punishment, because he's treating Hashem like a friend. Now the Gemara says in Masechet Yevamot, page 48b, about horrible punishment that comes to people that delay tshuva. Just say, no, I'm not ready for it yet. No one says you need to become Moshe Rabbeinu overnight, but you have to do something. It's not that difficult to keep Shabbat. Just don't drive. Just don't use the TV. Don't even have a TV, better yet. Don't use electricity. Leave everything on if you want. It's not that difficult. It's not just having a vacation once a week. That's all it is. No one says that eating kosher is that difficult. Baruch Hashem, in America, there's a kosher place in every corner. You don't have to eat taref. It's not that big of a deal. Trust me, you'll live on kosher too. No, it's expensive. Not really. Today, it's almost the same price. That's just a fairy tale. People know it's so much more expensive. It's not so much more expensive. Even the meat. Trust me, you go to a restaurant, whether it's kosher or it's not kosher, the steak's still $50. And if you already go into a restaurant, you could afford either steak. If you already give yourself the luxury of going to a restaurant, you could afford it. People complain, oh, it's expensive, it's expensive. Yeah, but so is a navigation system. $3,000 for a navigation system you're never going to use, but you didn't have a problem buying it, even though you get navigation for free on your phone. But $3,000 navigation system and $10,000 rims, we have money for. But a $15 kosher steak, no, it's too expensive. I need to get the $7 one that's made from pig. So people need to think about these things. Because the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot says delaying tshuva is horrible. What's one of the examples they use? They say, there are certain types of people that Hashem really, really loves. Who are they? Converts. Converts. Hashem loves converts. He actually calls Am Yisrael converts. But he loves people that are converts. To such an extent that the Rambam in Ilchot Deot, chapter 6, Halakha number 4, the Rambam, everyone agrees with the Rambam. It's not like his opinion. Like some people today, it's like, yeah, my Rebbe over here, he says this, and my local Rebbe says this. There's no opinion. If it's the Rambam, it's everybody's opinion. Why? Because the entire Shulchan Aruch agrees with the Rambam. So now the Rambam says, Hashem commended us concerning the love of the convert, just as he has commanded us in loving himself. As it's written in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 11, verse 1, and you shall love God your Lord, and the Holy One, blessed be He, Himself loves the convert, as it states, and He loves the convert. Meaning, the Rambam explains, just as a person is obligated to have unlimited love for Hashem, he is to love Hashem more than anything, more than his parents, more than his wife, more than his kids, more than anything. V'aftat Hashem Elokecha is a mitzvah from the Torah, meaning that Hashem comes first before anyone, before your wife, before your husband, before your kid, before anything. He is the only one you are obligated to, chas v'shalom, die for, whereas you're not obligated to die for anybody else. If somebody gives you avodah zarah, go pray for this avodah zarah, it will kill you, you have to die. Arek v'al yavo. But if your wife says either kiss me or I kill you, you're not allowed to die. Not allowed to. So now Rambam says you have to love God in an unlimited way. But Hashem says that this unlimited way, what is supposed to teach us? To also love the convert in an unlimited way. Meaning that you have to actually love the convert even more than a natural born Jew. You have to love the convert even more than a natural born Jew. To such an extent that the Sefer HaMitzvot says that Hashem's love for converts is so extraordinary that He created an extra mitzvah for them. There's an extra mitzvah that He created, which is the love of converts. He added, it was supposed to be 612 mitzvot, He added an extra one for the converts. That one time the Rambam wrote a letter to a convert named Ovadia, 900 years ago, that was having a tough time. And the Rambam wrote him a letter and he says, I envy you. Why? Because although the Jews, Am Yisrael, can trace their lineage to Avraham Avinu, the convert's connection to Judaism is dependent on God Himself. All of us, Bnei Yisrael, born to Jewish mothers and so on, we all connected somehow, some way to Avraham Avinu. But the Rambam says, but the convert is directly to God. And that's why God says, you have to love Him just like you love me. Just like you love me. So here we see the Rambam and the rest of the Chachamim tell us how much Hashem loves the converts. 36 times it's mentioned in the Torah how much to love converts. But yet the Gemara in Masechet Yevamot, page 48b says, you know the converts, you know after they convert, many of them suffer. Many of them suffer after they convert. They have a hard time, money, marriage, a lot of kaparat avonot. Why do so many converts have suffering after they convert? Hashem loves them. Why do they have so much suffering? If He loves them, why does He give them suffering? The Gemara says, because they delayed their conversion. Meaning, they didn't take it seriously enough to convert today. They delayed it to next week because they weren't ready this week. They didn't have the money yet. They're going to get paid next week. So I'll do it next week. I'll go to the Bet Din next week. Yeah, why don't you just borrow money? No, I don't like borrowing money. I'll just do it when I have my own money. Oh, so that means you're just going to let the Shekhinah wait. You let the Shekhinah wait so you can serve Hashem later, next week. For that you get punished. Why? Because you think that it's okay, you can serve Hashem whenever you want. But then the Holy Side says, wait a minute. Think about it. The Goy is not even obligated to convert. He's not even obligated. It's not even mitzvah of Bnei Noach. You're obligated to convert. Not obligated to convert. He says exactly. That's the point. Just imagine, Hashem punishes the convert for delaying the conversion even if he's not obligated to convert. Imagine the Jew that is obligated to do tshuva that delays his tshuva. What kind of punishment he would get? Hashem yirachem when he's obligated to do tshuva. If the one that's not obligated to do gets punished, imagine what the one that is obligated to do gets. This, Rabotai, is some of the things we need to know. We have a few days. We have a few days to get serious. Pick something. Whatever you're doing right now, it's not enough. Why? Because you're meeting me. Hashem didn't send me to your life because you're Moshe Rabbeinu. He also didn't send me to you because I'm Moshe Rabbeinu. Point is, we're meeting each other for a reason. I'm supposed to remind you of something. You're supposed to remind me of something. The reality is we have a couple of days to do tshuva. Show up to Rosh HaShanah with Hashem. You know what? Okay, last year maybe I slacked a little bit. I'm taking this on. I'm doing something. This year I'm going to do this. This year I'm going to do this. How are you going to prove you're going to do it? Just not words. Not just words. B'piru v'sfatav kibduni v'libo richak mimeni, the pasuk says. In their mouth and their lips, they respected me, they honored me, but in their hearts, they were far from me. A lot of people talk cheap. Talk, but they don't do anything. You have to start doing now, today, tomorrow, the next day. It's only a couple of days. Do something. Whatever you said you're going to do, start today. Start tomorrow. Start right away. Why? Because you show up to Yom Din in a couple of days. Okay, Hashem, I didn't do it the whole year, but I started doing it now. If you start doing it now, it shows you're serious. Whatever it is that you're going to do. It shows you're serious. If your wife told you, listen, really, I'm not really sure this is really working out. No, I want it to work out. Okay, show me you want it to work out. Oh, I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. See you. Hopefully you find new chidush. So hopefully you find new shidduch. Somebody says, listen, honey, I'm going to Uman. I'm going to Uman for Rosh HaShanah. She says, okay, but it's about tzlacha rabba. You pray for a good shidduch. Pray for a good shidduch, because when you come back, I'm not going to be here. Pray, Rabbi Nachman is going to give you a good shidduch. Why? Why are you going to leave your wife on Rosh HaShanah? Unless your wife wants you to. If you're on the same team, if you both understand, a lot of guys go there because they think it's a good thing, but unless their wife thinks it's also a good thing, they're not allowed to go. So these are the things we need to know. Rosh HaShanah is in a couple of days. B'ezrat Hashem, this will help us do some cheshbon nefesh, get us to do a little bit of tshuva, a lot of bit of tshuva, and then B'ezrat Hashem, spread the news. Spread the news to Am Yisrael, spread the news to our families, our friends. There's some free CDs that I brought for you guys. There's 2 CDs in each package. So it's approximately 80 hours of me. 80 hours of Torah. So even if you don't like my face, you could still just hear my voice. Same Torah though. A lot of interesting things. B'ezrat Hashem, any questions you can ask away. Other than that, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn again together soon. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Kid.
My son worked at Lehman Brothers.
Ah, okay.
At the time that it collapsed. And he came into the dining room. There was another employee there. The woman was crying in the staff room, whatever. So what happened? She said, I invested every penny of my retirement in Lehman Brothers stock. It went 80, 40, 30, down to 20 cents. They stopped trading it. She lost $800,000. Her entire life.
I know a few guys that were making, literally, before the crash, they were making $2 million a year, $3 million a year. They came outside with little boxes, with their little notebook, a calculator they were allowed to keep, a couple of pens, nothing. Millions of dollars went to nothing. Gone. Same thing with Bear Stearns, same thing with a bunch of guys. Bunch of guys lost money. Be'ezrat Hashem, this will get all of us to wake up. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.